Hello malt mates, welcome to Ralphie Review 1062 Extras. In 1062 review, I reviewed this as part of a very short 3-bottling series of features of the Online Scotch Whisky Awards winners 2024. My next review is going to be this. I've opened it, I've had a couple of drams. This will be review 1063. It is Kilkerran 12-year-old. This is a natural, integrity delivered bottle of excellently matured, proactively matured, natural colour, non-chill filtered, 46% authentic single malt Scotch whisky, which many people who are Springbank fans, they overlook and don't even realise that it comes literally from the distillery next door to Springbank called Glengyle Distillery, and it's called Kilkerran. The entire Kilkerran range is reasonably priced, and it's increasingly widely available internationally. So go find malt mates, you can't go wrong. This will be my next review, and I have to say, I've had a few sips in and it's an absolute banger. This is a banger as well, because both have featured in the Online Scotch Whisky Awards, which is the definitive reference of democratic voting of the global online whisky community as to what they reckon is the best of the best. It is done through democratic votes, and it is transparent, and it works really, really well. So if you go to the oswa, oswa.co.uk, and you will find a link down below, yes you will, I always have a link in the channel here, you will have a ready-made list of what are rated by popular vote to be the best whiskies you can buy. Some of them, granted, are expensive, but many are not. And when you have these bottles of whisky, it's going to simplify your journey significantly, because you're going to know fairly early on in your journey what real quality is, and you're going to build in that quality. And then when you open a bottle of whisky, and if it doesn't really suit your palate at the time you open it, but you know it's good quality, no worries. Put the cork on, put it in your cupboard, close the door, and come back in a year's time, because it will be just as fresh as when you put the cork back on. Because spirits do that. You'll never see a bottle of spirits with an expiry date on it, because it takes decades and decades for a whisky to expire, to oxidise and turn flat. And that's basically due to poor storage and excessive temperatures, more than the actual spirit itself not surviving. Anyway, I'll pop this back up in the shelf, because we're going to come to that shortly, and I'll bring down another bottle, which I'm going to use as an illustrative example of a small family-owned, independent whisky bottler who are diversifying into bottling other spirits. Now, this is nothing new. Cadenheads are a very good illustrative example of being the oldest independent bottling company in Scotland. Going back several hundred years, they've always bottled rums, because there's always been a tradition in Britain, particularly of what are called Navy-style rums, or basically molasses-type rums. And they have had an extensive range, and they've bottled some pretty obscure stuff, which is now highly collectible. And it's such an interesting journey. Once we kind of understand whisky and we've got our bearings with whisky, and to be honest, we're maybe getting a bit oversaturated with whisky. You know, we can either drink nothing at all, take time out complete from alcohol, and there's no harm in that, doing that regularly. But you can also look at alternatives, the alternatives to malt. And the primary source of really interesting, authentic and quality in rums for the whisky drinker is not actually coming from official bottlings, which are really pitched to baristas, bar professionals, mixologists, party goers, and people that want coconut juice and Coca-Cola in their rum. Therefore, the majority of rum bottled, you won't see above 40%. In fact, you'll see it lower. You'll see it down to 38%. If you see a 38% bottling of rum, please never buy it, because you're being seriously shortchanged. Less alcohol, less flavour. It's as simple as that. The rum producers are really slow to latch on to the fact that whisky drinkers are getting more interested in rum as an alternative. Why? Simply because of the sheer diversity of geographical location and the actual signatures and different flavours of these rums. Everything from the super heavy molasses styles of Jamaican rums like Hamden to the super light, light ester, grassy, soft estery style of agricole rum like Trois Rivers. Very good example. We're now seeing at this moment in time single sugarcane varieties, and one thing that I would highly recommend to any rum drinker is, if you can, find somewhere that has actually got a sugarcane mangle and can actually squeeze fresh sugarcane juice into a cup for you to buy and for you to try. You don't understand rum by buying a bag of highly refined chemicalated sugar in a supermarket. That tells you nothing. And as for these gum or sugar, liquid sugar spirits you see in bars, that's literally what they are. They're liquefied refined sugar. They've got no flavour in them. It's when you taste the fresh squeezed sugar juice, it's magnificent, and it's full of vitamins. People realise it's got high nutritional value. Marvellous. When I was in London, when I was attending a rum show last year, it was near the Osborne Market, and the Osborne Market is just on the south bank of the Thames. Just go over London Bridge and turn right, and you can't miss it, because you're under a canopy of crossing railway viaducts and bridges, and you have this artisans market. Now, sure, it's a bit pricey, but it is London, so that's what you get. But in there, you will find fresh squeezed sugarcane juice, and it is exquisite. It'll cost you £5 for a cup, but I'm telling you, it's worth it for the experience. It's really, really tasty stuff. And keeping this in mind, once you've had that experience, it explains rum to you. You start to get your bearings and stop your over-institutionalised palate being purely whisky and only whisky. And you will find that many experienced whisky drinkers, they've enjoyed whisky for years, even decades, but there comes a point they just fatigue the palate. It happens to all of us sooner or later, and it will happen to you if it hasn't already happened. And as a result, you need a wee break from the whisky. And one of the most effective ways is to re-stimulate your palate through another spirit. And rum is definitely a good way to do it. And this is one reason why the independent bottlers in Scotland, primarily based in Scotland, who are bottling, most of the time they're bottling independent versions of whisky, single malt whisky in particular, but not always. There's blended malts and traditional blended Scotch. They're providing really good versions of rum because they know there's demand for it. Because they're far more in tune with their audience than the corporations are. Because the corporations, the challenge they've got is their audience is simply too big and too widespread, and also is not really interested in quality. They're just interested in brands. And sure, to a certain extent that will work, but sometimes it doesn't. Here's the other bottle here. I haven't mentioned it yet. Dramore. Dramore are primarily, like Thompson Brothers, independent bottlers of Scotch whisky. But this is single cask Armagnac. Armagnac, of course, is the less glamorous southern cousin of cognac. The rules are slightly different. The method of production is slightly different. But essentially, cognac and Armagnac do have a lot in common. And one of the things they have in common is the quality. When done properly and when delivered at high strength, the quality can be exceptional. Simple as that. So this is one I'm going to be reviewing in the next couple of months as part of my independent bottler series. It will be the first time I'm reviewing an Armagnac on my channel, I think. Probably wrong there. I mean, it's 15 years of the channel, so I can't remember everything. There's bound to be bloopers. But this is Chateau de Bordeneuve. It's 17 years old, distilled in 2005. It's bottled at... What is it bottled at? Where's my steampunker? Here it is. 49.2% alcohol. And this is one of 300 bottles from the cask. The cask is number 1013. It is splendid stuff. As soon as you remove the cork and have a little swifty snifty, what pops out is a much, much lighter, fruitier, intense nose than you would get from any whisky. There's whiskies can smell like this, but this has got super fruit to it. So it's not going to be confused with whiskies. It's a very good example of where independent bottlers are going now. They're not restricting themselves to one single spirit. They're diversifying. They're out in the open market, checking what's in the inventory of the wholesale warehouses that have these odd bod, eccentric casks come in, or maybe someone in the company's developed a relationship with the family who own a small distillery and they simply do a cask swap. There's a lot of different ways they can go about sourcing these casks, but the results are that you and I have, on a very small volume at the moment, access to these, and I have to say they make a very refreshing change to Scotch whisky, and they are a reminder, a very physical reminder from the experience of the consumption, as that quality in itself can be marvellously diversified in the palate. And I look forward at some point to seeing not so much tequila. I think tequila is generally a little bit overrated, in personal opinion, but mezcal, permutations of mezcal and Eastern European plum brandy palincas, when they appear, this is going to further charge up the diversity of what's available to us in very simple, straightforward packaging. No airs, no graces, and essentially, importantly, no disingenuous fake marketing. The thing about spirits is you can have a really high-class connoisseur experience on a significant budget. You're not going to get this with perfumes. You're not going to get this with other luxury goods. But because the thing about spirits is you don't know what luxury is until you've developed your own palate to suit your own definition of that luxury. So unlike a handbag or a watch, you're told, oh, it's a Rolex, it's luxury. It's Gucci, it's a luxury. These brands are losing their reputation because they've overplayed their hand. There's too much out there. This idea that there's exclusivity and rarity has been blown out the water. It's bullshit, actually. It's BS. The thing is, in our little scene, when it comes to superb quality spirits, there isn't so much a lot. There's plenty of alcohol out there. But see the really good stuff? There isn't so much of that at the moment. So, and particularly when it's not whiskey, you don't get enormous premiums on it. Armagnac's a classic example of that. So's the rum. You can really buy some affordable casks And let's see where this journey takes us, because we're right at the beginning of it. It's only in the last 10 years that you've seen whisky drinkers start to take seriously the malternatives. And I've got to credit, and all credit goes to Serge Valentin at Whiskey Fun, who in particular has been banging his gong about some of the splendid rums out there. And really, you can't bluff that. You need a good palate to explain it. And anyone that really knows about good quality spirits, they'll soon see through it if it wasn't genuine. And it's from Serge, it's absolutely genuine. He is quite simply, one of the most precious reference voices that we have at the moment. So make sure, even if you're not buying some of the really expensive stuff that he tends to review, have a look at his channel called Whiskey Fun. I do recommend it. And also, my malt mate Roy Duff of Aquavit channel, he's got an online magazine, and I get a wee copy of the periodicals and the articles that come out every month, and it's called Dramface. And I do recommend you go and check out Dramface. The decency and even-handedness of the writing of the articles, you can see that channel is really coming of age. It's doing a great job. Great job. And it's all about communication at the end of the day, because as we communicate, so we discover. And as we discover, so the journey goes on. And what a fascinating journey it is. See you soon.